confidence is king, man. Like when people empower you to bring your voice to the table, you are so much better.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm excited for this episode. My guest today is Kelly Hopping. She is CMO at Demandbase, where she leads an incredible team of marketers and SDRs focused on transforming go-to-market strategy with AI and account intelligence.
AI is awesome because it's going to accelerate my output, throughput, whatever, right? Like I can take my writer who just wrote this beautiful 30-page ebook is not going to create shelfware and then it'll be launched once and done.
She's had an amazing career in marketing, started in CPG at Kraft Foods, then she pivoted to tech at Dell and AMD, and then rose through marketing leadership roles at Rackspace, Gartner, Haiku, and now Demandbase. And along the way, she's mastered brand building, pipeline acceleration, and team culture at every stage of company growth.
But I say at the end of the day, like my number one goal is to make sales love me. And I say me meaning marketing. I want to give them high quality pipeline.
She's also written a couple books. She's the author of Rising: How to Thrive as a Corporate Executive While Staying True to Yourself, and co-author of Yes, It's Your Fault: From Blame to Gain, a blunt take on sales and marketing alignment. She's not afraid to challenge the norms, and she once took a 6-month sabbatical to reset her career. She leads with empathy and strategy and believes performance branding is the real growth engine most B2B companies ignore.
1, 2, 3, 4. Exit.
Outside of work, I think you live in Austin, Texas, right? Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Okay. And she's a football mom, in case you haven't been following her on LinkedIn.
The diehard football mom.
Yeah. Diehard football mom. Love that.
I'm sort of obsessive about it.
Love that. I love that. Should we do a whole episode on like the connection between football moms and B2B marketing leadership?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all grounded in probably a sense of competitiveness and hard work pays off and pursuit of excellence and all the things.
Nice. I love that. Well, anyways, good to have you on. I'm curious. There's so much happening right now in marketing, and so maybe let's do a state of like Demandbase marketing team for outside of my description for people who aren't familiar. Can you give me the overview of what Demandbase is, and then let's talk about your role overseeing marketing at this company. What is your job?
I mean, I think so. Demandbase is in the middle of this transformation, right? Like a lot of the B2B marketing world or go-to-market world is right now, in that who we were and who we are becoming are kind of two different things. You know, we were founded as an account-based platform, right? We were founded, and that was through both building our own, but also acquisitions of Inside View and Engagio in the years past, and kind of becoming this kind of end-to-end platform that took data and insights and converted those into action across advertising and marketing and sales. And that's kind of the traditional account-based model. It's about bringing all of your data together to figure out intent signals so you have the highest likelihood of buying when you go after that account. And it's at the account-based level, not at the individual level. So that's kind of what's happened in the past. That's this kind of monolithic platform that does that end to end. I think the future is to a much more open, flexible, connected part of a much more integrated ecosystem. So today, or in the future, I think data is sort of the resource that kind of connects everything together. The power and quality of that data is what decides how good this thing is going to be. But those data and insights need to be unified in the singular way, and they need to power your whole go-to-market tech stack. So whether all the way from, for sort of first touch all the way through to close. And in the past, you've had your marketing automation, and you've had your ABM, and you've had your CRM, and you've had your forecasting tool, and you've had your outreach type tool. You had all these little things working together, and you're working hard to connect them. I think the future is everything is connected around the singular set of data. And so the question is, for the future of Demandbase, what role do we play in that? And we feel really, really bullish around account-based being an anchor in that, but it's not the only anchor, because it's kind of, I think buying groups is kind of the future of account-based. And it's like, how do you find your buying groups across the entire ecosystem? How do you make sure that everything talks to each other? Because at the end of the day, if everything is getting automated, through AI and through agents and these autonomous workflows, then they have to all be talking to each other, which means they all have to be running on the same pipe, and they all need to be connected, and they all need to be powering AI with the right quality data and trusted insights. And that's the future of where we're at. And so, what I do there at Demandbase, I'm the chief marketing officer there. I lead all of our marketing from sort of brand to demand. So that leads us all the way through to pipeline, which means I have the whole sort of brand, product marketing, content, growth engine, and all the way through to the SDRs who actually create that. Who convert those signals into opportunities and pipeline, and then our sales team takes it from there.
Can you give me just an overview of like, just for setting context for this episode of just the demand base, if there's publicly shareable metrics around like revenue, stage size, and then like just what your marketing org looks like to support that company?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not public or private company. I think we're mid-market size. We are what you'd call a Series H, I think, if you were to look on Crunchbase, and profitable. So we are not a company that's continuing to raise. We are a company that will most likely one day exit. We won't be standalone forever. We are. I know that the last thing we issued was we were well north of 200 million. There was a press release that went public. It's the reason I share that. And profitable, and our core, which is the majority of our business, is growing double digits year over year. We've been around, I don't know, 15, 18 years, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And what does the marketing org look like?
So we have I have about, I don't even know. I think I have around 75 or 80, I don't know, something like that in the organization. We have a product marketing team who does all of our messaging, positioning, analyst relations, pricing, packaging. I've got a content and brand team that does all things related to content development, content SEO, brand, creative, video, podcast, any of those kind of more corporate marketing type functions. I have a growth marketing team, which has everything from campaigns and digital marketing to field marketing and account based, to partner marketing and events. And then it's also got customer marketing, community. And then I have evangelists on the team, people whose job is to really advocate for us in the market, both amongst marketers and amongst sellers, who are our primary personas, customer personas that we go after. Yeah, I think those are the big. Oh, and then we have our SDR team, which is part of our growth team, but they're the ones who take marketing responses that come in, and like I said, turn those into pipeline.
And is the go to market motion? You all are advocates of, account based. Is that the go to market motion for the company as well?
Yes, we certainly run Demandbase on Demandbase, and so we run account-based marketing through digital. We do account-based selling in terms of the way that our SDRs and our sellers use the product. We use buying groups and all the things. So yes, we also do run sort of broad strokes demand gen that picks up audiences outside of our ICP. So we do run like paid search, which picks up a broader audience. We try to keep it as targeted as possible, but we do that. We do run, webinars, and those obviously can get registered by anybody, shared by anybody. So we run a lot of broad strokes demand gen, and then for the one to many, and then we run account based and field type programming more at the one to few and one to one.
How do you articulate your role at this stage of the company? 200 plus million in revenue, 70-person marketing team. At one point, Kelly was a marketer. Now Kelly is the CMO, the marketing leader. You can't be touching all of the brand, demand, product marketing, creative, video, podcast, SDR. Like, you can't possibly be in all of those places. But how do you, from your seat, how do you think about your job as CMO, and what is the job of CMO?
It's a good question. I will say it evolves. It definitely changes over time. So I've been in seat almost 2 years. I would say the first year, and even sometimes now still, but the first year was really about understanding my current org, understanding the objectives for the company, understanding what we're trying to accomplish, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of folks in place, understanding the gaps we had on the team. So a lot of the first year was rebuilding the marketing leadership team, whether that was current talent and changing or evolving their roles, or whether it was bringing in talent from the outside or promoting from within. But it was about building the first line marketing leadership team, making sure that they were clear on how we work. How do we operate? How do we, how do we measure success? What are our key objectives? How do all these things work together? So there's a lot of like sort of that building stage that first year. And now we have an incredibly talented marketing team. And each of those leaders came in and they've done the same and built their organizations. So now, kind of soup to nuts, we have a really, really strong marketing team, which I'm proud of, which then allows me to not sit in every one of those meetings like you've talked about, and instead kind of be that that driver and like contributor, but also influencer between where the company at gave our CEO's level, where he wants to take it, what his vision is for the company, and then what role does marketing play in that? And some things aren't so clearly marketing, right? There are things like positioning of the company. Yes, my team is going to help write that positioning. They're going to help draft that narrative. They're going to work. They're going to interview customers to inform it. We're going to use a lot of research and do those. So marketing is going to play a really heavy hand in driving that. But that's one of those things that is really critical for me to be involved in. But it's also very cross-functional. So I work a lot with our sales team and our CX team and our product team and our and Gabe and all those leaders to say, how do we make sure that we maintain relevance in the market? How do we make sure we're repositioned for the future and not just for today? So a lot of it is kind of that element of pushing that initiative through the company. And like I said, my team does a lot of the heavy lifting of putting pen to paper on it. But it is it's a lesson in both managing up, managing down, managing side to side, and making sure that we're all bought in on the direction the company goes. So that's where I spend a lot of my time today.
No, it's good to hear you say it. And the reason that I asked is because I think a lot of people who listen to this are either CMOs or aspiring CMOs, or maybe first-time CMOs taking that job for the first time. And I think one of the challenges is understanding that there's kind of two organizations that you're responsible for. Like you have marketing, but really now your coworkers and peers are the head of product, the head of sales, all those departments. And I mean, something I struggled with my first time as a marketing leader, but understanding how to navigate those two. And there might be conversations, you may have just gotten off a strategy session with the head of product and CEO, which completely is going to disrupt what you're currently doing in the day-to-day marketing org, but you still have goals to hit, and understanding like how to balance those things, what you share with your team. And then really what you said about positioning, man, that is so important, because I think, at least from what I see on LinkedIn, I think so often it's like, oh yeah, marketing just, write the messaging. And it's like, no, all these things are connected. We can't just say the things we want to do, because we need a product to build. And I see a lot of content written about the importance of like sales and marketing alignment. You wrote a book about it, right? It's very important. But I think an underrated, or something that should be of equal importance, is like the relationship between the CMO, the CEO, and the head of product. Because ultimately, if you don't have the product to sell, like, marketing wants to be involved in driving that vision, but you're not writing the code. You're not deciding necessarily what's on the roadmap. And so can you think back to like earlier in your career, before you really grew up into like the high powered exec Kelly that you are today? was there a learning curve? I kind of want to try to just share some lessons to those that are coming up about when you really became like shifted from marketer Kelly to CMO Kelly, and what the difference in that role is.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of different learnings, and I feel like I think that's why we are multiple time CMOs, because you approach each one differently, right? Your first time CMO, I approach very different than my second versus third versus fourth. My first time as a CMO, I felt a responsibility to know and be an expert in everything I was managing, which is a hard place to be. And so, but what I realized when I came in, I had never managed paid media or SEO, which was a massive percentage of our revenue, my first CMO gig. And I had never managed those directly. I had worked with agencies who managed them. So I'd sort of been responsible for the numbers, but I hadn't really been the day-to-day. We managed them all in-house. So I got there and I thought, man, how do I become an expert in all the things that I need to be managing? So I spent a lot of time with each of our functional leaders and was like off the clock, like just teach me, like, what am I looking at when I look at these paid numbers? What should I care about? What is important? What are the roadblocks here? What are the questions I should be asking you to make you better at this? Like, kind of all of those things. And I got really, really smart on paid and really, really smart on organic. Like, what does this mean? What is a domain score? Like, what does it mean to have good domain authority? Like, how is that going to change? Like, I just needed to like be a sponge. And the reality is, like, yes, it was super important that I was a sponge, but it was also a learning that I don't have to be an expert in all the parts. I need to be able to lead all the parts. And so there is a level of understanding that you have to have in order to be able to be a good leader to those people. If I don't understand it, like, I don't have a good means of asking them where they need help. I don't know how to tell if they're doing a good job or not, or if we need more resource or less resource. So I think that was a learning from, say, CMO 1 to CMO 2 was like, I need to be a great marketer to wait. No, I need to be a good leader who understands the business. To then, I think in this one, I've learned much more of like, there is a season for every part of that. And so there is a season for, I need to listen first. But there's a ticking clock on me that's like, yes, you need to listen, but you need to make impact fast. Okay, so I need to listen quickly. So those first 90 days are brutal because you are round the clock just listening and absorbing and taking it all in and trying to deduce some sort of takeaways. Then there's implementing like a plan and actually figuring out what that plan is and putting a structure and team and KPIs and operating model in place. And then there's the stage of, okay, the talent is good or not, or you hope it is it kind of like gets up to speed and flowing. And then there's the stage of, okay, now I'm going to look forward for a minute. I've been looking backward. I've been looking straight down into the present for a long time. Now it's time to be like, where do I want us to be in 6 months, 6 years? CEO may be looking 2 years out. CMO should probably be looking a year out. CRO is probably looking a quarter out. And so we each have a goal, and product is looking at all of that, right? They're saying, where do we want to be in those 2 years? But what do I need to do today to get there? And so you're right, that partnership between me and product and CEO on how do we want to position this company for the long game is super important. But also obviously balancing, I got to hit my numbers every quarter too. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think you approach every role different. And now I'm really happy, like, but sometimes I look back and I'm like, gosh, could I build an integrated campaign anymore? I don't know if I could. Like, do I remember how to do that?
Oh, now you could. You just vibe. It's just vibe marketing. You just go to, open ChatGPT and you're good.
There you go. Now you just totally, I mean, Gen AI has changed all of this. I'm going to have to relearn how to do it in AI.
Absolutely. Everybody does. We're going to talk more about that. But you talked about balancing the short term and the long term stuff. And I think typically that's, if I had to pick one of our audience, one of the hardest challenges is like, I think you can be either really good at hitting the number now, or you can be too strategic and too visionary, and then we're missing the number today. Do you have any principles? Is there like a Kelly principle of investment? How do you think about placing your bets so you can do both? I think oftentimes we hear like, from an investment standpoint, it might be 70% on today, 30% on tomorrow, but more goes into it than that. And I think, the great marketing leaders that I've talked to have this unique ability to be able to make sure the team is focused and hitting our goals this quarter, this year, while also having a plan to get to the future. Whereas young Dave in a first-time marketing leadership role was so focused and let the pressure get to me so much of, hit the number this quarter. Then when it's November and I'm asked for the budget and targets for the following year, like, I can't just drag the spreadsheet to scale these channels. And some of this stuff takes enough time. How do you think through some of that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's probably varied by role, but I definitely yeah, you have to look at both, especially these days, because the crazy part is that like today and future are almost they're not synonymous, but today is changing so fast every single day that future is almost like you almost are underestimating what the future is going to look like because the pace of change right now is so fast. And so it's a little bit hard, but what I will say is that in terms of what I will call, I don't know about today and future, but I will say like pipeline and positioning almost is sort of the how do I position for the future while driving pipeline today. When you have good leaders in place, it's probably 30/70. So it's probably 30% I'm worried about pipeline because I've got a great leader who's going to run that. And it's probably 70% of kind of looking forward. How do we position? How's the team ready? Do we have the product infrastructure for this? Do we have the right roadmap for this? Is Gabe bought in on this? Like a lot of those kind of conversations. But I think in general, it should be a little bit more balanced than that. Especially while we're building. It used to be to me like 80% pipeline. I was like, I just have to hit the number. And I tell you have one bad quarter and you're right back to like 99% working on pipeline. And so that's the challenge too, right? Is that it kind of changes. So for instance, we just reported out last week at our board meeting. And it was lovely because we had hit all of our numbers versus the quarter before. And it felt great because then it was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, yes, I got to keep my foot on the gas, but the team now is rolling over there on that because like the micromanaging of the last quarter can step off a little bit. They're running and now I can pivot and focus on something else. And now I'm going to go micromanage positioning instead.
Which is like, yeah, there's fewer questions. Or as a football mom, when the team is winning, fewer people are questioning the coach's strategy and which plays they're calling, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How did you get out of that? How did you get out of that hole? And obviously, this is a natural progression. At some point, you will miss a quarter, you will miss a year. It is going to happen.
Yeah.
Just tactically, like, what was the state of things, and then like, how did you make changes to come back and hit the number this quarter?
Yeah, I mean, I think the narrative stayed fairly consistent. If we think about like where we were a quarter ago versus the past quarter, the main thing is that a quarter ago, we knew that the future was coming, but we weren't there yet. And we were in a sea of change. It's just like, sometimes you just get lucky on time, right? So that timing of our last one was Thanksgiving to Christmas, which is always a fun time for generating business and vacation schedules and everything else. We were down an SDR leader. We were down a field marketing leader. We were down field marketers. We were down a few things. We had some turnover in pockets of sales. So we had like a few things that were going. We weren't launching any products. Our big event season didn't start until like the day after board meeting. So we just had this window of like RKO happened. So everybody came off the floor for a week. Like we had all that happen. First month of the year, we're still trying to nail like target account list and territories and sales assignments and all of that. So the window was Thanksgiving, Christmas, the uncertainty of January while we get resettled, RKO, and then board meeting. And you're like, hey, I'm here to tell you that nothing great happened because all these other things were happening.
Timing.
Yes, timing. And then the next time you go like, hey, since we met last, we've had 47 events. We hosted our big thing. We tripled our pipeline. Our SDRs are at full capacity. Leaders are all in place. The strategy's running. And so it's nice to have a before and after on that. But there's always, like you said, there's going to be down cycles. Some of them are really organic. Like you've got all the things in place and the market's just soft. Other times you have, sellers or SDRs who take their foot off the gas because they get tired and, it's a lot. Other times you're not feeding them good quality things because there's no good events or no good programming or it's a vacation schedule. Like we're about to go into June and July, which is when, it's harder to generate business in the summer as folks go off. And
I have a CMO friend of mine who he will text me like clockwork every year around July 10th. He will text me a screenshot from the CEO asking why, pipeline is slow.
And you're like, because it's July 10th.
Right.
People aren't working. Everybody's on vacation right now.
And it's just like, that is, I think that the more people I've talked to and the longer I've done things myself, I just realize like those are just some questions, it must be like me being annoying as heck to my kids when I'm like, they're rushing out the door to go to school. And I'm like, did you brush your teeth? It's just like, you just got to ask the question and move on.
Yep. Well, and it's why, like, say February through May is so critical, right?
Yeah.
You've got to front load as much as possible.
Gotta go get it.
Yeah, you got to like build up your reserves like a bear, right, to prepare for the like the long summer.
Okay, you're hinting, you're getting at something that I think is really important, and I don't think we talk about it a lot. Is the orchestration of the year really matters, right? Like, before we talk about the tactics and the offers and everything, like we need to like literally lay out the calendar and like stack the year. Like I've made mistakes of basically stacking things in the wrong time. And it's like, well, we got to over index for like events in February and March because we, or February through May, because we know the lag of the pipeline, and that stuff really matters. And then that's the fun part, when you're kind of moving the pieces around and seeing when you're going to execute, right?
Yeah, I mean, it means that you probably have, well, and there's also a lag between pipeline and bookings, right? So then it's like, okay, we're going to front load Q1, we'll front load Q3, and Q3 won't be like July and half of August, but the second half of August and September is like peak season. So we need those. And then you go into October and you're going to have a great October, but you're going to train your team to expect a huge Q4 when you're going to have a great October, and then pipeline's going to drop off a little bit November, December. But what you hope is that then the pacing of conversion to bookings, which might be, in some organizations is 30 days, some days it's 90 days, 120 days, depending on the business. But then being able to watch that and say, okay, if I load up in May, I should be able to close this revenue and hit a strong Q3, even if July is soft. So there's some of that. Q4 should be a huge revenue quarter. It's probably not a great pipeline quarter, but it should be a great revenue quarter because Q3 was a great pipeline quarter. And then it's hopefully trickles out by the time you get to Q4. The open and close in the same quarter is the part that's a little bit tricky. So we call those create and close opportunities. And, sometimes they're really common in a expansion business. Like when you already have a customer, they're there and you're trying to sell them more stuff, you can usually open those opportunities and close them all in the same quarter. New business, a little bit harder to do unless you're like an SMB shop that can make those decisions very quickly. So it's just a matter of kind of that balance. When we do our forecasting for the year, it's yes, plan for the pacing, plan for the seasonality. It's going to be different by segment. It's going to be different by quarter. It's not just a straight line. Here's your annual forecast, divide by 4 and move on. So
Demandbase was started in 2006, going on almost 20 years of the company existing, right? Obviously, there's lots of software companies that have existed for a long time. So pardon my naiveness in asking this, but I'm just curious as to like in a world where, especially when you're selling in MarTech, right? Like there's kind of always this game of like, who's the hot new, everybody wants to use the hot new tool, the hot new app, the hot new thing. How have you continued to make Demandbase relevant, right? In a world where like you can put on a great event, but at the end of the day, it's going to be like, well, why you? Why now? What is the reason?
yeah.
How do you pitch Demandbase today? And it's just gonna, I'm sure even in your 2 years, it's gonna continue to evolve. I'm close with Kip, who's the CMO at HubSpot, and something that we talked about too. And I think about so whether you're Salesforce or IBM or Cisco or any of these companies as they grow over time, most people know you exist at some point, and so it becomes this act of like, why you? Why now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things there. One, I think that's why keeping up with pace of innovation is so important, right? It's why we do, account reviews with our key accounts to actually say, hey, this is what's coming on the roadmap. These are the great things. We want them to feel like they invested in a company that's continuing.
Right. And when you say pace of innovation, you mean from like a Demandbase R&D product, what are we building strategy piece?
Yeah. Are we building the things that are keeping up with trends, behaviors, buyer expectations, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a big one. That to me is super critical. It's also should be table stakes, right? Products should be keeping up, leading the charge, driving, like we should be, the company positioning should be trying to catch up with the product.
Does marketing play a role in that?
certainly all the positioning work. I would say the main thing is the product marketing reports into marketing and works very closely with the product team based on win-loss data, based on competitive intelligence and market intelligence, based on trends we're seeing, based on kind of just the pace of innovation, trying to like play that sort of conduit between what engineering is working on and what the market is asking for. Trying to get feedback from sales, sitting in on customer meetings to hear what they're struggling with. So that's a big one. In terms of the other part that stays relevant is it's a really hard one, right? It's a thing that we are pushing like crazy on right now. So I think the reality is like the companies with the right product market fit will survive. And I think it's it's not just the product market fit the day they are there, but keeping up with those changing market conditions. And so what that means is that, because I don't know that pain points have changed all that much. Yes, the way we're asking for them have, but people still don't want to waste marketing dollars on buyers who aren't in the market to buy their product. Marketers still have limited budgets. They always will. They won't have enough to do what they want to do. These are my target market. Sellers are creatures of habit. They don't necessarily want to change what tools they use every day, what decks they use every day, how they're going and finding contacts. So all these things, like if you know that your persona has those kind of behaviors, then you're like, okay, now I got to marry that up with what's happening in the market. Well, now they expect automation. Like they expect that process to be automated. That workflow feels tedious. So, okay, so now we need to automate that piece. Hey, we know that people love Demandbase for all these reasons, but it's an inhibitor because it's complex and cumbersome and sometimes hard to use. So let's put agents in place to streamline all the hard parts, the parts that they don't want to do, so that they can just focus on building the strategy and driving outcomes and not building manual processes. Let's automate that stuff. We know that sellers struggle to use the product because they have to leave their Salesforce interface that they sit in all day and go over to Demandbase to use it. So you know what? Let's build Demandbase integrated into the iframe of Salesforce so that we can meet salespeople where they are. Same product, same pain point. We want to get to the right customers, but let's build it into their workflow. So I think those are the ways that customers stay relevant, is that pain points are there, but the way they work evolves. And so we've got to make sure that we kind of keep leading that charge and not being left behind on that.
Well, this is the stuff that I love about marketing. It's like throw out the MarTech, throw out the sales tech. Ultimately, great marketing at the end of the day and great company strategy is about having a deep understanding of your customer. And so it's like, all right, well, what do sales and marketing people that would buy Demandbase right now, what do they care about? Where are they getting stuck? Where are we losing deals? Who are we losing deals to? What features do they have that we don't have? I wrote something the other week about just like, there's so much change happening in AI, but I think marketing ultimately is about these kind of timeless principles in like human behavior and psychology. It's like, how can you make me look good to my boss or to my team? How can you save me time? Time is the one thing nobody has enough of. Can you give me time back, remove friction? How can you make me money? How can you help me avoid pain? How can you help me grow? And so then if you kind of like overlap those things with the ICP that Demandbase is selling to, those are going to be timeless. And it's like, hey, how do we innovate? Let's look at Salesforce, right? I think Mark Benioff is one of the greatest marketers ever because he kind of has this way of always pushing, what's next in the vision and somehow tying Salesforce's, old story into like the new way that the world is going, whether it was buying Slack or being early to talk about, agents and AI. So it's good to hear you talk about, it's not necessarily a feature, it's about this true deep product marketing understanding of who we're selling to and who we want to buy our product, right?
Well, it's also what makes being, 100%. And it's what makes being a marketer at a place like Demandbase so fun because I'm marketing to myself. I mean, at the end of the day, like I am my buyer. And so I understand what those pain points are. I understand, like sometimes I'll look at messaging and I'm like, guys, I would never buy this. Like, hey guys, this is super relevant. Like you just hit me exactly where I want. Like, this is what I'm struggling with. Y'all nailed it. Or sometimes it's like, hey, this wouldn't resonate with me, but it would resonate with the practitioners on my team. Like, let's talk to the actual digital marketer who's running Demandbase, or to our, to our VP of growth, and let's talk with them and kind of say, hey, where how does this resonate with you? Because it's different by persona, but it's so helpful to be like, yeah, I understand that pain point. I live it, I breathe it every single day.
Yeah. Okay. This is not where I was going to go, but I take notes. You made me want to go here next. Let's demand base aside, just like you as CMO, Kelly, what are your pain points then today? Like, it's be a dream for anybody who wants to sell something to you later to listen to this episode. But Q2 2023, 2025, Q2 2025. What are the big pain points for you as the CMO of a 70-person marketing org, Series H company? And give me one or two. We don't have to go into all of them, but like your one or two burning things.
Yeah, I mean, I joke that, or not really joke, but I say at the end of the day, like, my number one goal is to make sales love me. And I say me meaning marketing. And that doesn't mean that I'm giving them all the best pipeline. Yes, that's important. I want to give them high quality pipeline, but I also want to give them a brand that they are super proud to put on their outbound marketing, or on their outreach, or they're super proud to stand at our booth at an event, that they're seeing air cover in the market, that when they call their prospect and mention Demandbase, that prospect knows who we are and what we do. I want them to feel like they are empowered in a sales conversation because I've given them the right objection handling, or the right positioning, or the right pricing model that a marketer can understand. So at the end of the day, those are the things I need, because I want sales to love what marketing is doing. So they're our primary audience. Yes, they're internal. Yes, external matters. But if it's working external, it makes our salespeople super happy. So those are the big ones. But at the end of the day, I mean, my most tangible things is I need to drive pipeline, and I need to hit my pipeline numbers. If I hit my pipeline numbers, it means that all my SDRs are getting paid at 100% at least, right? Because they hit their quotas, which helps me feel better. I want a team that feels engaged and loving what they do every day. I want my turnover to be low, because they're constantly feeling challenged, and they're feeling the wins, and they're feeling motivated. I want my boss to trust me enough that he says, go do it, and doesn't micromanage the outcome, because he trusts that I will do the thing, which means I have to earn the trust, right? So those are some of the things I think. I want my peers to see me as a peer, and not as the marketing person who is a second-class citizen because it's marketing. But instead to be like, hey, like, we've got another, like, strategist and business athlete at the table, between the chief product officer and the chief marketing officer and the chief revenue officer and the chief customer officer, that we all sit at a table and have equal footing, because we all have a different perspective on the market, and that's respected. So those are, we all want to be part of a winning team on a inspiring mission and driving big results.
I love that. I've so two things. I love the framing of, like, I wrote this down to make a clip of it later, but my number one goal is to make sales love me.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most, like, simplified, fundamental, like that will quite literally solve every other problem within the company. And usually the reason sales loves you is because you are giving them things and helping them close more deals.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If we're making them more money, they are going to be very happy with what marketing is giving.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is, just from a CMO journey standpoint, like, I love the framing of, I want the other leaders and execs around the company to basically be like, hold on, we can't have this discussion without Kelly. Like, we want Kelly in here. Hey, we want this kid. Like, I was a marketing leader at two companies. One of them, the product leader, did not like me at all. One of them, the product leader, loved me. And guess which one was more fun and which company did better? It was the product. When the product team, one company was like, don't share anything with marketing, hide the roadmap, don't tell them anything. The other company was like, I could see the product leader, this when we were in the office, he would come running down the hallway, and I'd be like, oh no, they just had a crazy product meeting, and Craig wants, and like, the rest of my day would be blown up, because he would want to bring me into the room with the engineers, with the product managers. And that was the best team chemistry. Like, we truly felt like we were building this thing together. And so I love those as guardrails.
Well, and you brought your best self to work in that second environment, because confidence is king, man. Like, when people when people empower you to bring your voice to the table, you are so much better. I look at my daughter's plays club volleyball, and I look at her like on like she's been on the top team and she's been on the second team. And on one team, she felt, and she worked for a coach who was, you know, much different, two different coaching styles, but one brought out full confidence and one she played in fear. And I will tell you, like, she was 1,000 times better player when she felt empowered to go as hard as she wanted, to fail, sure, fail fast, fail forward, move on, but be okay failing and then just pick yourself up and keep going, versus one where you feel like it's perfection and you're tiptoeing, whatever. Like I if I can inspire confidence in everybody we work with, you get the best results for sure.
I love that. That's great. Before we talk about the future, let's talk about now. Are you feeling, I'm going to ask you this question, but also answer it because I've been asking everybody and it's kind of the same. Are you feeling that I ask CMOs like best channels right now, what's working? And everyone's like events, in-person events. You feel that?
Yeah, certainly from I would say volume would still be coming through paid to some extent. So you're still seeing that kind, but in terms of quality, upmarket conversion, 100% in-person events, whether those are big, large scale events, even the large scale events, that's one thing. It's the side parts of that, right? It's the executive dinner the night before. It's the lunch with the women leaders from your customer base. It's the like we took a group at Forrester to a speakeasy and did this like whole plane experience. It was amazing. Like that kind of thing. Like it's these very, very interesting experiments and experiences across events. Yeah, that face-to-face touch can't be beat. But obviously the volume is still going to be needed through big bulk webinars, big bulk paid.
Yeah, but I also feel like, and I meant to, the prep doc that our team gave me, I was supposed to ask you about brand performance, that concept that you like to talk about. But I feel like just like anything in marketing, all these things are connected, right? You could host a great dinner and doesn't mean that someone's going to buy Demandbase that night, right? But now they're like, wow, that was great. I met Kelly, I met the team, that was a super great dinner. It might be 6 months from now that then they see an ad. Oh yeah, now's the time to evaluate that thing. And so it's not, events are a great channel, but they're also not a direct response channel at the same time, right?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I have sort of a love-hate relationship with like multi-touch attribution, which we do over long time periods. Because yeah, you look at that, like that first touch might have been that dinner that we had. And then by the time it converts, yeah, it's converting, like it finally converts on a gift card from an SDR. And you're like, okay, so that gift card was worth whatever, but the reality is the whole thing, right? And as much as I hate kind of the attribution models in general, I think the spirit of them in recognizing that there can be 25 touch points before it turns to revenue is super valid. And yeah, so ultimately you see the cumulative contribution to pipeline, especially in the upmarket, being so much higher a lot with events and that kind of thing.
Okay, maybe let's wrap up with your honest opinion about what's happening with AI in marketing right now. Where are we going?
There are some days when I think, maybe naively, I think AI is awesome because it's going to accelerate my output, throughput, whatever, right? Like I can take like my writer who just wrote this beautiful 30-page ebook is not going to create shelfware and then it'll be launched once and done. That ebook now, because of AI, is going to become 45 pieces of snackable content. And it's going to be incredible. And we're going to run it through every single channel and it's going to work harder. And so it really becomes like a marketing accelerator, a revenue accelerator, because you can use everything you create in a much more intentional way. I'm not in the spirit of use AI to create all of your stuff original, but for derivatives of, absolutely. I think it can do a lot of great work. So there's that part of it where if I think very close to home, I'm just going to it's just going to help our team operate more efficiently. Long game, I mean, I'll be honest, I sit at conversations sometimes and think, because I've got a kid going into college in a year, and I think, what's not going to be replaced? What's the job to get or the degree to get that's not going to be replaced? And it's one of those exercises. It's almost that exercise of like, if I win the lottery, what would I do with it? Like, it's a little bit of like kind of a fun, but also fairly daunting of like, oh man, I don't know what I would do. Like, what is the thing? Like, I'd be like, well, maybe I'll go into consulting one day. And then you think, man, knowledge is the main thing that's getting replaced by AI. Okay, so it's not knowledge that people need. Is it, is it the thinking part? Is the thinking going to be needed? Is that not it? Is it the strategy elements? Is it storytelling? No. I mean, there's a lot of outsourcing. So there's a whole bunch of things when I kind of get wrapped up in like my head, I can go down a long, long rabbit hole of where AI is going. I think in general, though, it's going to be as long as it stays clean, meaning that the data stays clean, that's feeding the models, that the models aren't feeding other models to where it becomes a problem. But as long as like the future of where MCPs are going and connecting all these agents to talk to each other, every single thing in the world is going to get automated. So what's the human role in all of this is the part that's really, really interesting. And what do I need to do today? Like even today, you know what I did yesterday? I downloaded some app. I'm a sucker for a good Instagram ad. I buy some random things I don't need off Instagram, but I happened to buy this like 28-day AI training. It was like learn a different AI application every single day, so that I can learn how to create images with very specific prompts. I can learn how to do Canva with very specific inputs, like all the different things that are AI powered, because I don't want to be behind on that, right? I mean, my kid uses Chat GPT as a search engine. That's his Google. Like I use Google still. And sometimes I catch myself like, okay, there's a balance. And so now I've started making that pivot. It's just a different world. And I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
Man, that's some deep. That's how I feel too. Some days I'm like, "This is great," and then some days I'm like, "Oh man,
Yeah.
my father-in-law is a carpenter," and I'm like, "Man, you better pass on all these skills before you go because that's the highest demand job is plumbers, electrician." Like,
That's what I told my kids. I'm like, maybe you should go to trade school because they're not outsourcing carpentry. They're not outsourcing like somebody's still got to change the electrical, the plumbing. Someone's always got to do those things. What are those humans? Physical training. My kids are really into to working out, exercising, training, and I'm like, no one's outsourcing that. Like that's a human job.
yeah, well, yes, but yeah, there's even nuance to all that. Like, I have a Chat GPT project that is essentially like my workout assistant, and I log and track everything. And instead of having a personal trainer, like I can't, hey, all right, are you super sore? You did Murph yesterday. All right, here's what you should do today. Like,
Did you do the Murph challenge yesterday?
yeah, I did Murph yesterday. Yeah,
Good for you.
I'm wrecked today, and I did it with a vest, and it took me 54 minutes, and I'm in a bad place today.
The vest, that's bold. I mean, especially if it's warm outside and things.
I know it wasn't so bad. I did in the morning. It was probably 50 degrees out. It was, but I've been sitting in this position for like 4 hours today, and I gotta go pick up my kid at school after. I'm like, I'm gonna just make him chill out because I need to do like an hour of stretching at some point.
It is, yeah. And you're right. Now you have a workout assistant, AI powered, that is going to walk you through how to recover from that Murph challenge. And they can do that. I mean,
Here's the issue though. I had an author on the podcast, and I didn't read his book. I just like, I can't read everybody's book. It's insane. And so I did the prep notes with ChatGPT, and it completely made up something. And I'm asking this guy, I'm like, so tell me about so in your book, you have the SCORE framework, SCORE. And I start rambling, and the guy goes, "What?"
yikes. That's a good thing you pre-record so you can edit that right out.
No. It actually, I'm not embarrassed about it. It turned into this his book was about AI, and it turned into this great moment of like, oh yeah, like this is stuff does make up answers, and like there is some role of human involvement. And it actually ended up being like an amazing part of the episode. But I've even found myself, like, yeah, I'm blindly like trusting what these models are telling me. And I'm worried about, I don't know where things are going either, but I'm concerned about my own ChatGPT usage, and like making sure like my brain doesn't atrophy because like, I'm weird. I think I'm weird and I'm funny in my own quirky ways. Like I want that to be embedded in, I don't just want to outsource. I saw this Instagram video of, it was like kids in 2040, and it's just like a meme video, and the kid couldn't even write like a simple email to say thank you like after an interview
because it had always been done for him via chat. Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
It is. However,
Yes.
as marketers though, like I'm excited mainly because like this is super fun. It's fun to like, I was burnt out on market. Like, man, I've been doing the same B2B marketing for 15 years. Like it's the same stuff. I feel a renewed sense of energy because I'm like, wait a second, this is like, if I got to do this all over again, but it was in like 1998 when like the internet was coming and I got to be early. And so even to hear you're like, yeah, I'm taking courses. I'm trying to learn this stuff. Like, that's the exciting part. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be fun. And I think it allows our marketers spend a lot of time just doing like project management, like stuff. And I think this allows us to do a lot more strategic thinking, understand more of our buyer, understand more of their pain points or persona, actually building things that meet them where they are. Like it forces us to use a different part of our brain because you can outsource the monotonous stuff.
look, do you know, I mean, you're a CMO, but like I was always the ghostwriter on the team, like product marketer, I was the guy that like, CEOs speaking, at some event in Amsterdam and like Dave's got to make the deck.
Yeah.
Like I'm using Canva and Gamma and I'm never making my own deck ever again. Like tools like that are like a positive. Like how many freaking decks have you made in your life that like, it's in my head. It's just that, I can write it all down. It's the act of like taking it from my notes to like, I got to spend my whole Sunday making, 20 slides for the management meeting on Monday.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Well, yeah. Okay. Kelly Hopping, thank you for hanging out with me. I hope I got something out of you. Your brain is sharp. You're good. You were great. Go find Kelly on LinkedIn, connect with her, follow her, send her a message. Be like, I heard you on Dave's podcast, because then she'll be like, oh my God, Dave, you have a lot of listeners to that podcast. That's pretty cool. Always great to see you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me on the pod.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.